Okay, making this for somebody in the group that one of the groups I admin, LDS, Last Days Prophecy and Gospel Discussions for Joseph, who is upset about the church and his paradigms falling apart. I would say to him that the church has many useful benefits for education, for learning, but that not everything that the church says is correct, and not everything that they do is correct. It's a man-made organization, and but there's many truths in the church. As far as tithing goes, your tithing should be used to help the poor, end of story. If the church is going to use it to build up these lavish temples and these things that they do, then you should find somebody else to give your money to, or just use that 10% to take care of the poor on your own. That's my opinion. All right. And for your own personal information, I am not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints anymore. I was excommunicated for apostasy back in 2013. So, and I didn't realize this until after my excommunication, but I'm going to read you some things that hopefully you can wrap your mind around. Doctrine and Covenants section 124 was given in January of 1841. Jesus Christ has given this revelation to Joseph Smith. And in verse 28, verse 27, and build a house to my name for the Most High to dwell therein. This is Jesus Christ talking about a place for the Father to come to and dwell therein, building the Nauvoo temple. 28, for there is not a place found on the earth that he, the Father, may come to and restore again that which was lost unto you, or that which was taken away, even the fullness of the priesthood. So here Jesus Christ is telling Joseph Smith to have the saints build a temple where the Father can come, dwell therein, where he, the Father, can come and restore to the earth the fullness of the priesthood. Now, in order for the Father to restore anything at all, you have to already have the Melchizedek priesthood to actually come into the presence of the Father for him to restore what is called the fullness of the priesthood, which is higher than just the Melchizedek priesthood that one man can give to another. For a baptismal fount there is not upon the earth, that they, my saints, may be baptized for those who are dead. For this ordinance belongeth to my house, and cannot be acceptable to me only in the days of your poverty, wherein you're not able to build a house unto me. So he's basically saying, I want you to have this temple also to do baptisms for the dead. And though I am allowing those things to happen outside of the temple because of your poverty, I do want you to build a temple where you can have these things happen, these baptisms for the dead. Verse 31, but I command you, all ye my saints, to build a house unto me, and I grant unto you a sufficient time to build a house unto me. During this time your baptism shall be acceptable unto me. So he's saying, during the time that the saints are building this temple, I'm going to accept these baptisms for the dead, and I'm going to give you an acceptable time to build this temple where you're going to build the temple for the Father to come restore the fullness of the priesthood, and for these other ordinances, like baptisms for the dead, that I want to happen in this temple. But I'm going to be accepting of them until you're able to get the work done in building this temple. Verse 33, but behold, at the end of this your appointment, your baptisms for your dead shall not be acceptable unto me. And if you do not these things at the end of the appointment, ye shall be rejected as a church with your dead, saith the Lord your God. So Jesus Christ is saying, if you drag your feet in building this temple whereby the Father himself can come restore the fullness of the priesthood, whereby I'm giving you an acceptable time to build this house, then you'll be rejected as a church with your dead. It's right there, right there in verse 32. Verse 33, for verily I say unto you, that after you have had sufficient time to build a house unto me, wherein the ordinances of baptizing for the dead belongeth, and for which the same was instituted from before the foundation of the world, your baptisms for your dead cannot be acceptable unto me. Verse 34. And therein are the keys of the holy priesthood ordained. So therein the temple that you are supposed to finish are going to be given to you, these keys of the holy priesthood, that I will ordain you with these keys, that you may receive honor and glory. So this is supposed to happen in the temple, not the red brick store. And after this time, your baptisms for your dead by those who are scattered abroad are not acceptable unto me, saith the Lord. Verse 36. For it is ordained that in Zion and in her stakes and in Jerusalem, those places which I have appointed for refuge shall be the places for your baptisms for your dead. 37. And again, verily I say unto you, how shall your washings be acceptable unto me, except for ye perform them in a house? Perform them in a house which you have built to my name. So the washings and the anointings, the ordinance of conferring keys of the priesthood, baptisms for the dead, and hold on. I'm making a video. You need to stop. That's my 10-year-old. Are you 10? 9? She's 9. Anyway. Where was I? Verse 38. For this cause I commanded Moses that he should build a tabernacle, that they should bear it with them in the wilderness, and to build a house in the land of promise, that those ordinances might be revealed, which had been hidden from before the world was. So this temple is to, first, the Father's supposed to come restore that which was lost unto you, or that which was taken away in the fullness of the priesthood, which only the Father can give. This is where I want you to do your baptisms for the dead. This is where I want to confer priesthood keys upon you. This is where I want you to have your ordinances for your washings and your anointings. And this is where I want you to have your... this is why I want to reveal mysteries to you, which have been kept hidden from before the foundation of the world. Verse 39. Therefore, verily I say unto you that your anointings and your washings and your baptisms for your dead and your solemn assemblies and your memorials for your sacrifices by the sons of Levi, so they're going to reinstitute animal sacrifices by the sons of Levi in this temple, and for your oracles in your most holy places wherein you receive conversations. Now, what is an oracle? The true definition of an oracle from the Hebrew is the words of God as given by God to the prophet, that the prophet delivers. They are not the prophet. Okay, so he's saying, I'm going to give you these hidden mysteries. I'm going to have this place for your solemn assemblies, for your memorials, for your sacrifices by the sons of Levi, and I'm going to give you more revelation in this holy house. More oracles, more revelation, wherein you receive conversations in your statutes and judgments from God, from the Most High, for the beginning of the revelations and the foundation of Zion, and for the glory, honor, and endowment of all her municipals. Now, what's the endowment? The endowment is God giving you the fullness of the priesthood and endowing you with power. It's not a play. It's the endowment of power, which is given with the fullness of the priesthood, which my people are always commanded to build unto my holy name. Verse 40, and verily I say unto you, let this house be built unto my name. Who's speaking? Jesus Christ. Build it in Jesus' name, that I may reveal mine ordinances therein unto my people. So Jesus Christ is going to come and reveal the revelations, which will be for the foundation of Zion, for the redemption of Zion, And he's also going to reveal his ordinances unto the people in this house, this temple, which is going to be built in Nauvoo, if they are obedient and build it in the acceptable time that God has given for this temple to be built. For I deign to reveal unto my church things which have been kept hid from before the foundations of the world, things that pertain to the dispensation of the fullness of times. Now, this revelation was given from Jesus Christ to Joseph Smith, January of 1841. What revelations came after that? Not many. The temple was never finished. The Father never came to that temple to endow the saints with the fullness of the priesthood, which Jesus Christ said must happen. The revelations, the oracles, the sacrifices by the sons of Levi, none of that ever happened. When Joseph Smith was murdered with his brother Hiram, and then a month later, Samuel Smith also died suspiciously, they were just starting to build the second story of the Nauvoo temple. Not any time did the Father ever come to this temple. Jesus Christ said he had to come and reveal things which remained hidden from the foundation of the world in this temple, and to give these revelations for Zion's redemption and for the beginning of the oracles and for all these other things. None of that ever happened. Now, Brigham Young said they happened in some of them happened in the red brick store, but Jesus Christ is saying you have to build this house, not the red brick store. Build a house whereby the Most High can come dwell therein, that he might restore that which was lost unto you, or that which was taken away, even the fullness of the priesthood. The fullness of the priesthood had not yet been restored upon the face of the earth. This is part of the restoration. The fullness of the priesthood cannot be received unless you have already been given the Melchizedek priesthood, because in order to come into the presence of the Most High, you must have the Melchizedek priesthood. And that goes for men and women. It's patriarchal priesthood and matriarchal priesthood. Women have priesthood too. Verse 43, and ye shall build it upon the place where you have contemplated building it, building the temple. He's talking about the temple here. For it is the spot which I have chosen for you to build it. If ye labor with all your might, I will consecrate that spot, that it shall be made holy. But if my people will hearken unto my voice, and unto the voice of my servants, whom I have appointed to lead my people, behold, verily I say unto you, they shall not be moved out of their place. Now, where is their place? Nauvoo, Illinois. Meaning that Jesus Christ, if this temple is built, is going to fight their battles for them, and they should not be removed from Nauvoo. Another thing, he says if they do it with all their might. The wood for the temple being built in Nauvoo was being sent down the Mississippi River, and it was being cut in Wisconsin. It was dedicated and consecrated for the building of that temple, and the saints in Nauvoo were using it to build their homes, to build a Masonic temple, which is not the temple of God. Brigham Young was building the second wing of his mansion using that dedicated and consecrated wood, which was meant to be for the building of the temple. So they were not using it or doing it with all their might. They were dragging their feet. Okay. Now remember, Jesus said that they would not be moved out of their place. But what happened? They were moved out of their place. God allowed them to be cursed and rejected. Like he said, they would be rejected if they didn't take this seriously. Verse 46, but if they will not hearken to my voice, nor unto the voice of these men whom I have appointed, they shall not be blessed, because they pollute mine holy grounds, like with the Masonic temple, which they used dedicated and consecrated wood for to build the Masonic temple when it was dedicated and consecrated for the Nauvoo temple, and mine holy ordinances and charters and my holy words which I give unto them. Verse 47. And it shall come to pass that if you build a house unto my name, and do not do the things that I say, I will not perform the oath which I make unto you, neither fulfill the promises which ye expect at my hand, saith the Lord. What are they? The oath is, you build the temple, the Father is going to come restore the fullness of the priesthood by his own hands. He's going to endow the saints with power. They're going to have a place for the baptisms for the dead to happen. They're going to have a place where the oracles of God can be given, or the revelations, the thus saith the Lord revelations, can happen for the redemption of Zion, which we have not had. They're going to have they're going to be taught things that have been kept hid from the foundation of the earth. They're going to also also going to have these sacrifices by the sons of Levi, all in this temple. None of that ever happened. Verse 48, for instead of blessings, ye by your own works bring cursings, wrath, indignation, and judgments upon your own heads by your follies and by all your abominations which you practice before me, saith the Lord. Verily, verily, I say unto you, that when I give a commandment to any of the sons of men to do a work unto my name, and those sons of men go with all their might and with all they have to perform that work, and cease not their diligence, and their enemies come upon them, and hinder them from performing that work, behold, it behooveth me to require that work no more at their hands of the sons of men, but to accept of their offerings. Okay, so if they did not use the dedicated and consecrated wood to build up the Masonic temple and Brigham Young's second wing to his mansion, and the land speculating that was happening, and all the corruption that was happening in the church in Nauvoo. Sorry, my video cut out. So basically saying if they do everything that they're supposed to do, then God, and they get attacked and they're not able to fulfill what God has asked them to do, he's going to forgive them. But if they do all this other stuff that they're not supposed to be doing and they drag their feet, God is not going to forgive them. And what did they do? They took the wood that had been dedicated and consecrated for the building of the Nauvoo temple, and they used that wood to create the Masonic Lodge, to create other buildings instead of putting it to the work of building the temple. Brigham Young was using that wood to build the second wing of his mansion and other things like that. There was also land speculating, which was a hindrance to the poor and impoverished that were converts from England and from Europe. There was a lot of things that were going in Nauvoo that were not right, and God rejected them. Now, sorry, let me get my train of thought back here real quick. He said that he would fight their battles for them if they were obedient. But what happened? What happened was the prophet was taken from their midst. There was a secession crisis. Nobody knew who should lead the church. It took 3 years for Brigham Young to get the reins of the church under his control. But there were many splinter groups from that. Now, one other thing I want to say is there's two scriptures where Jesus Christ says, if you are not equal in all things, you are not my people. That's one. So Brigham Young building this mansion for himself while people are living in mud huts, that's wrong, okay? And if you are, how does he put it? It is not given for one man to own that which is above another, wherefore the whole world lieth in sin. That's another thing that Brigham Young was doing. They were building these big lavish homes for the leadership of the church, which, by the way, the traveling priesthood were not supposed to be living in Nauvoo. That's a completely different part of this. But they were not being obedient. They were not building the temple in a timely manner. And Joseph Smith stated in Nauvoo, which is recorded in Lyman White's journal, which the Brighamites do not have, but it is had by the Community of Christ, or the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where Lyman White wrote that Joseph Smith said that they were in a poor fallen state and that they had been rejected with their dead, which is what Jesus Christ said would happen if they were not obedient and they did not perform the building the temple with diligence. Um, eh, Now let me just finish reading this. And let me just, I'm just going to read 49 again. Verily, verily, I say unto you, when I have given a commandment to the sons of men to do a work unto my name, and those sons of men go with all their might and with all they have to perform that work, and cease not their diligence, and their enemies come upon them and hinder them from performing that work, behold, it behooveth me to require that work no more at the hands of the sons of men, but to accept of their offerings. He's talking about building the temple. But what happens if they don't do what they're supposed to do? He said he's going to reject them. And the iniquity and transgression of my holy laws and commandments I will visit upon the heads of those who hinder my work, which the saints were the ones who were hindering the work by taking the wood that was dedicated and consecrated for the building up of the temple and building other things, to the third and fourth generation, so long as they repent not and hate me, saith the Lord. Verily, and this is 51, therefore, for this cause I have accepted the offerings of those whom I have commanded to build up a city and a house unto my name, the temple, in Jackson County, Missouri, and were hindered by their enemies, saith the Lord your God. And I will answer judgment, wrath, indignation, wailing, and anguish, gnashing of teeth upon their heads, unto the third and fourth generation, so long as they repent not and hate me, saith the Lord your God. What happened? Did God fight their battles for them, or were they cursed? Were thousands and thousands made to suffer as they were in an exodus out of Nauvoo? How many thousands died? Did God fight their battles for them? Did they get to remain in their place? Did Jesus Christ fight their battles for them? No, he did not. And this I make an example unto you for your consolation concerning all those who have been commanded to do a work and have been hindered by the hands of their oppressors by oppression, saith the Lord your God. For I am the Lord your God, and I will save all those of your brethren who have been pure in heart and have been slain in the land of Missouri, saith the Lord. Anyway, he just goes on here, but basically, what was the temple for? Jesus Christ told Joseph Smith and the saints to build a temple whereby the Father, or the Most High, could come dwell therein, that he himself might restore that which was lost unto you, or that which was taken away, even the fullness of the priesthood. In order to come into the presence of the Father, you have to have the Melchizedek priesthood. This temple was built for the Father to endow his saints who were obedient and worthy with his own power, the fullness of the priesthood. Jesus Christ said that this temple would be built so that they could receive revelations from him in a place for the redemption of Zion. That never happened. The Father never came. Jesus never came. He said that this would be a place for your oracles and your conversations. Who? Conversations with who? The Father and the Son. That never happened. This would be a place for restoring the sacrifices by the sons of Levi. Did that ever happen? No, it did not. He said that this would be a place where things would be revealed which had been kept hidden from the foundations of the earth. Did that happen? No, it did not. Jesus Christ said if they were worthy and obedient, he would fight their battles and they would not be removed from their place. Were they removed from their place? Yes, they were. There is no historical account of the Father or the Son or any angels coming to that temple, which was never finished. They hindered the work, they dragged their feet, and all they who hinder this work will be cursed to the third and fourth generation. Lyman White, in his journal, which is held by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the reorganized one, not the Brighamite one, because they don't like this information. In his journal, he says that Joseph Smith said that we are in a poor fallen state, and we've been rejected with the church and are dead. In 1843, one generation of Israelites following Moses in the wilderness was 40 years. 40 years times 4 is 160 years. And 160 years after 1843, I myself was taken up unto Mount Vashel, to the very temple of the Father, and I knelt before him in the flesh, and he conferred upon me in his own temple the fullness of the priesthood and all of the keys that Brigham Young claimed to have. The curse is that they would never receive the promises or the oaths and covenants that God or Jesus had for them if they were not obedient. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is part of the fallen and rejected church, as were all churches that came out of Nauvoo. There's a lot of truth in the LDS church. There's a lot of lies in the LDS church. They have left the restoration, and they have gone closer and closer to the way of the Gentile than they are to the redeeming saints, who would be those who redeem Zion. They will never have the fullness of the priesthood. They have gone in iniquity. Now, what does iniquity mean? Iniquity means that when God gives you a path to follow and you depart from the path, that is what iniquity is. And they have departed from the path, even of their own church leaders, like Brigham Young, who gave a false endowment, which took all day long to do in the St. George Temple, removing things like the lecture at the veil. The anointings and washings were done in bathtubs in the temple. By the time I went in 1997 to the Salt Lake City temple and got my anointings, it was a dab of water. That's your changes. And now I hear that you don't even get dabbed with oil or water for your washings and anointings. It's all symbolic or something. Over the course of the last 160 years, the church has gotten rid of many things. They've also added many things, and they are in full iniquity. So when they tell you that they are the only true church upon the face of the planet, they are lying. Because Jesus Christ said clearly that he would reject the church with their dead, and all they who hindered that work would be cursed to the third and fourth generation. The Father never came to that temple. Joseph Smith was murdered when the temple was only, they had only completed one story. They just started work on the second story of that temple. Jesus Christ never came to that temple to give them oracles or revelations or anything. And after this all happens, Revelations almost completely stopped in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints after this revelation was given. And after this time, Revelations almost completely stopped. John Taylor and Wilford Woodruff both claimed to receive thus saith the Lord revelations, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's because the church rejected them and they tried to hide them in 1886, in 1889, and 1890, and I'm not talking about the manifesto, I'm talking about actual thus saith the Lord revelations, where they're commanded not to give up polygamy and other things. And I've talked about that in my podcasts. But those are the only revelations which were given after that time period. Brigham Young never saw Jesus Christ. He never saw an angel. John Taylor claims that he saw Jesus Christ and that he got revelation from God. Wilford Woodruff claims that he got revelation from Jesus Christ. And Lorenzo Snow claims that he had a visit from Jesus Christ, and they don't tell you the whole story to that either. After Wilford Woodruff was murdered, and he was murdered, he was killed with arsenic poisoning. He was a keynote speaker at the Bohemian Grove. If you know what that is, you should look it up if you don't know what that is. The next day after his keynote address, he was murdered. He was dead. So Lorenzo Snow is trying to reorganize the first presidency and do all of that, and he's in the Holy of Holies, and he's expecting to receive some kind of revelation on what he should do. And he comes out after several attempts, and Jesus Christ is standing in the hallway outside of the Holy of Holies, which, if you know where that is, it's by the celestial room. And the temple was in the hallway. And anyway, Jesus Christ said, I'm not going back in that room because you have rejected the fullness of the priesthood. Now, the church won't tell you that. The church will tell you, oh, Jesus said just to restore, blah, 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 whatever. They don't tell you the whole story. There's a lot of things they don't tell you. But the church itself is a man-made religion. It's based on truth, and there's a lot of truth in it. But the Father never came to that temple. Jesus Christ never came to that temple in Nauvoo. The revelations and the oracles, the thus saith the Lord revelations, which are supposed to happen in that temple, information that God was going to give that had been kept hidden from the foundation of the earth, that never happened. Still has not happened. They did hinder the work and were cursed to the third and fourth generation. Jesus did reject them with their dead, as he said he would. Now, Lyman White, who was in the first presidency in 1843, in his journals, Joseph Smith, he wrote down that Joseph Smith talked about that they were at a poor fallen state, and that the church had been rejected with their dead in 1843. Now go to the third and fourth generation. They will be cursed to the third and fourth generation. The curse was that the fullness of the priesthood would not be given to anyone on the earth for 3 to 4 generations. Now, one generation of Israelites following Moses in the wilderness was 40 years. So you take 4 generations times 40 years, and that's 160 years. And in 2003, the curse was lifted, and the Father took me up in the flesh to a place called Mount Vashel. And upon Mount Vashel was the temple of the Father. I went into that temple, and I saw the Father face to face, and he laid his hands upon my head, sealing me up unto himself and unto eternal life, and he did give me the keys that Brigham Young claimed to have in that place in 2003, and I hold them to this day. So while there is a lot that is good in the LDS Church, there is a lot that is wrong in the LDS Church, and they do not hold the keys that they claim to have. I know that the Father lives. I know that Jesus lives because I have seen them face to face in the flesh, and I've seen them many more times in the Spirit. And I have the authority that Brigham Young claimed to have. And I say this unapologetically, and I declare these things in the name of Messiah. Amen.